We have cured boredom. Boredom only really exists if you choose to be bored. But boredom is one of the most powerful states of mind that you can possibly be in. Being bored allows you to be proactive. It puts you back in control and allows you to make better decisions. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the value of boredom and how you can leverage this powerful state of mind to gain an advantage. First of all, how do we actually cure boredom? Well, boredom was cured back in June of 2007 with the invention of the iPhone. Steve Jobs stood on stage and said, "Hey guys, you're never ever going to be bored again in your entire life. Now, anytime we feel a slight inclination towards maybe being in some perceivable reality of boredom, we can just put our hand in our pocket, pull out our phone and start scrolling. Instantly cured boredom. Forever." If you think about every single moment throughout your day, for the average person, there is zero time where they can be bored. First thing you do in the morning after you wake up, well, a lot of people, they're just grabbing for their side drawer, pulling out their phone and scrolling straight away. But let's say they make it past the bed. They get out of bed and they have their breakfast. Then it's toilet time. So we got to go to the bathroom. Do we do that in silence? Do we do that and then be a little bit bored? No. You start scrolling. And then let's say you're on your commute to work. What are you doing? Are you on the train? Are you just kind of sitting there meditating? You looking out the window being a little bored? No. You're on your phone scrolling social media or playing Candy Crush. Then you get to work, it's a lunch break and everyone's gone. What are you doing? Are you just sitting there and enjoying your meal? No, you're on your phone. And then on the way back home, what are you doing? You're scrolling some more. And then after you finish your dinner, what are you going to do? Is it time to read a book? Is it time to just, sit down and relax? No, it's time to watch Netflix. And then right before bed is probably another good time to start scrolling again. At no point in the day are we ever really feeling bored. And what this really is just distraction. At every single point where you might have a moment of reflection, a moment to ponder and think, what am I going to do with the day? How am I going to allocate my time effectively? It's all being used up by some sort of distraction, some way to just feel a little bit good. Because why would we want to feel bored? Boredom doesn't necessarily feel good. Yes, it might be beneficial, but is it worth it if I don't really enjoy it? If I could be feeling fantastic right now? The reality is, it's just easier for you to distract yourself than to be bored. It is so much easier to just pull out your piece of technology, pull out your phone, pull out your laptop, get on the TV, and just relax. Just chill. Just sit there and turn your brain off and just mindlessly scroll or just mindlessly consume something on TV because it's just easy. It's just the easy thing to do. But all that happens is over the course of a day, over the course of a week or a month or a year, the amount of time that you spent bored, the amount of time that you've spent reflecting on where you are and where you want to be is so little. I mean, I really, really noticed this. After I finished school, between the time I finished school and most of my time in university, that entire time was just spent distracting myself and trying to avoid being bored at all costs. And all that happened is you just continue to live very, very passively. You just kind of sit there and you just kind of drift through life because at no point are you ever contemplating what you're doing. You're just contemplating, how can I not feel bored? Real quick, if you would like to reach peak performance, I've left no stone unturned into giving you everything you need, including an entire course on how to remove online distractions to help you reclaim your time and reclaim your mind. So if that is at all interesting to you, I'll leave a link in the description below. This is a very important concept I think we need to think about, and that is how we are choosing to suffer. Because at the end of the day, we're always suffering in one way or the other. But a lot of the time, when we choose to distract ourselves, when we choose to not be bored, what we're suffering from is passive suffering. It's the suffering that occurs when you constantly do things that make you feel really, really good in the moment, but at the end of the day, all that happens is you don't really accomplish anything, and over the long haul, when you think about what have I actually done and the fact that that is zero, it makes you dread what you're doing. You're thinking, God, what am I doing? Am I moving forward in life? What's happening? And you have this huge existential crisis because you're constantly feeling good in the moment, but every time that you're feeling amazing in the moment, you're taking away from the future version of yourself. Now, this isn't to say that you need to be constantly delaying gratification at all times, but if at all times you're constantly receiving instant gratification, then you're certainly going to be taking away from your future self. And this is how you start to suffer passively. This is how you end up 10 years down the road absolutely hating your life, because you've kind of drifted through life like a falling leaf floating side to side with changes in the wind. You're in no control of your life, and that feels horrendous. That's going to feel worse than any active suffering is going to feel. But that is the other form of suffering that you receive. If you choose instead to avoid all form of stimulation, if you try to remove all forms of entertainment and actually feel bored, yes, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer in the moment because it is going to be difficult. It is going to be challenging. You're going to have to confront issues that you've been putting off. You're going to actually have to face your challenges, face your fears, and take them on. And that's not easy. That is challenging. That is suffering actively. However, when you do this, and when you do this repeatedly over long periods of time, what happens is the accumulation of facing your fears, taking on challenges, is going to create a better version of yourself. You're going to be progressing and moving forward, and this makes you feel existentially incredible. You're thinking, wow, I've accomplished so much. I'm moving forward in life. This feels amazing. The feeling of progress feels absolutely incredible. But it is, are you willing to sacrifice a little bit of pleasure in the moment for who you are going to become in the longer term? And if we think about what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, most of us are just choosing to distract. We're choosing to feel good in the moment, which all that means is that you're taking away from your future self. But one of the biggest benefits you're actually going to get out of boredom is the efficient allocation of your time. A lot of the time, we don't need to be bored for a huge amount of time. You don't need to be bored for hours on end. It might take a minute or two of being bored for you to go, all right, let's do it. Let's do this. Let's say, for example, you have a project that you have to do, some piece of work that you have to get done. Most of the time what happens is we sit down to do work and we go, this is going to be a little bit difficult. And then you start scrolling, you start distracting because you know it's challenging. I don't want to face that. I don't want to worry about that. If you just sat there and just went, all right, let's do this. But then you were feeling, I really don't want to do it. But you just sat there. You didn't immediately receive gratification. You just sat there and you were just bored for a minute. You'd be like, okay, all right, let's just do this. I don't want to just sit here forever. Let's get something done. It's not like you're going to sit there for 2 hours paralyzed in fear. It may be a moment or two. It could be a minute where you go, I really don't want to do this. But when you choose to not distract, when you choose to just sit there and face it, you might only need to be bored for a very small period of time. But that boredom, you go, all right, well, I want to do something. I may as well do this because I have no other alternatives. That's the big thing here, is that when you have removed the option for easy, cheap alternatives, then the easiest thing for you to do is just the thing that you need to actually get done. If you have the choice between, I need to do this big project, but I could also scroll social media, I could also watch Netflix, I could also play some video games, your brain is going to naturally want to gravitate towards those activities because they feel better and they're easier. If you've removed those alternatives, if your choices are sit here and do nothing or do the work, your brain might want to sit there and do nothing for a minute or two, and then it will get bored and go, all right, let's just take on this challenge. Let's just do this work. We really are undervaluing how important boredom is. Boredom is the catalyst for you actually taking the action. Rather than instantly giving into your impulses and going and starting scrolling and starting doing something immediately gratifying, just sitting there in the moment and going, okay, let's just be bored for a second and then let's do something, you're going to be far better off. Because what's happened right now is that we've created such a strong connection in our brain between the feeling of boredom and instantly curing it and instantly feeling just a little bit of instant gratification. And what happens is when you get that trigger of boredom, you instantly try to find some sort of gratification. You instantly put your hand in your pocket and start scrolling. If your response to that feeling of boredom is just sitting in it, just enjoying the boredom for a second and then going, all right, let's make some action, you're going to make so much more progress. If you think about that being your cue, your response to boredom, over the course of a year, how much more would you be able to accomplish? If your trigger to feeling bored is always to gratify yourself instantly, over the course of a year, you're going to get nothing done. You're always distracted. You're always living passively. Whereas if your response is sit in it, take action, then you've now used boredom as a weapon. Now feeling bored is almost like a trigger for you to take action. how much better is that going to be for your life than that trigger making you do something impulsive, making you do something immediate that is taking away from your future self to feel good in the moment. So that is the power of boredom. That's why I think boredom is such an underrated state of mind, something that we can use. And if we can trigger some positive associations between the feeling of boredom and actually taking action, we can make some seriously great progress. So that was the end of the video. If you liked the video, please like and subscribe. There's probably some videos around here that you might be interested in, so I will see you in one of those.